All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Discovering Multifamily podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Scandariato with Red Knight Properties. And today we have a special guest here with us, Corey Chonsky with Fairwinds Capital Investments. Corey's originally from North Dakota, and he is a longtime Navy veteran. And, when he was in the Navy, actually, he had a lot of time, he had some time to start, investing in real estate. He started with purchasing distressed single family properties, renovating them, and then he was able to, when he became an officer, he was still able to double his real estate portfolio pretty much every year and lead over 140 Navy officers. So really cool Navy background. And now he's managing, primarily focusing on asset management, but he's involved in pretty much everything in regards to commercial real estate syndications, multifamily properties across 3 states, Virginia, Maryland, and Texas. He's got about $83 million under management, and he has about $10 million in renovations going on right now. But today we're going to focus on asset management and how, us as general partners, my company, we're general partners as well, meaning we're active participants in any real estate deal that other partners, limited partners, are investing with alongside us. We're actively managing communication. We're recording this kind of Q4 2022. So a lot of stuff in the market going on right now, interest rates higher. So still having supply chain issues and a lot of negative headlines. So Corey, how do you kind of keep your investors informed, and what are you doing to kind of, lessen the headline scariness of everything going on every single day? Is that actually affecting your business? And what kind of communication are you utilizing moving forward?
Yeah, so it's obviously really important to keep everyone involved. We also have other partners that we bring into particular deals. So we find it that it's important, obviously, to kind of be open and transparent as much as possible when communicating what's going on with the particular property. Some of it is properties that you currently have under management versus what you're trying to bring into your portfolio, and how the current debt market impacts that. Because obviously it impacts it, differently than, something that has a bridge loan where you have a, rate cap versus something that's fixed debt. That kind of leads into how people may be concerned. But, as people kind of reach out, you want to basically be open and transparent, whether it's a limited partner or a general partner. And so we obviously do our investor updates. We do that on a monthly or a quarterly basis, depending on what's going on with the project. And that's where we do a lot of things in terms of keeping people up to date in terms of the progress of the property, where we're at in stabilization. We also use Slack a lot for our communications with our general partners that, are part of any particular deal. So we create different channels in our Slack channel, and we discuss certain things as they come up inside that Slack channel, because a lot of those partners have an investor relation role as part of their partnership in the deal. And so we may not necessarily be communicating to each particular investor at any given moment, because there's some walls that you kind of want to put up when you're dealing with other people's investors that come into a particular deal. But that's why it's important to make sure that you're communicating with your other general partners, so that they can be open and transparent to their investors and are able to answer any of those specific questions that they come up. And outside of those monthly or quarterly updates, if there's something that comes up that is relevant and it shouldn't necessarily wait, we'll send out quick short updates through our syndication portal, just so people are kept up, informed of what's going on.
Excellent. What has been the number one question you've received over the past few months from your current limited partners or even your general partners that you've had to answer?
Yeah, so I think the biggest one, we have a portfolio deal here in Virginia that we're trying to refinance. There's some short-term rental income associated with that. So that has created some challenges. And so I would say it's really been kind of where we're at with the process of either we wanted to sell it. We put it on the market kind of right around the same time that, the market or the rate market kind of went crazy. So that has led to some challenges. So we're kind of dual pathing between trying to still sell the property, but also try to refinance it. So that's probably where I've gotten the vast majority of my questions and concerns, is dealing with that portfolio. Because we did actually have the property under contract for a period of time. Unfortunately, due to the rate market, the buyers did choose to back out of that. And so I'd definitely say that portfolio is kind of what's garnered most of the questions that I've been fielding recently.
So it's been pretty much property level, asset level specific questions. Do you guys provide any market updates in terms of what's going on with the current markets you're concentrated in, or do you focus really on, I mean, if people are investing in the specific deal, I'm sure that's their number one priority, to know what's going on with that property. But do you provide any sort of other market information, or any macro information, as part of your communication?
I would say we do that. We kind of really front load that a lot in terms of, as we're going into the deal, if any of those market fundamentals change, we're happy to provide that information to investors. But it's something that, depending on what the hold period is for your property, a lot of times those market fundamentals aren't necessarily changing that fast. Typically, that I've noticed in at least the areas that we've invested in. But when something happens, say like here in Chesapeake, they brought in an Amazon, a large Amazon distribution center. When those sort of things happen, that's something that we like to push out to our investors. But a lot of times you're focusing on those fundamentals when you go in and you're pitching a deal to investors. I haven't really had anything where the major market fundamentals have changed during a deal where we've focused on that as part of our message.
And how do you deliver, and not every business, in terms of every day, is not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There's always stuff going on. You mentioned you had issues with some short-term rental income. You know, what's the best way to deliver bad news, and communicate that, and then hopefully it turns out the opposite direction in your favor eventually. What's the best way you've seen to communicate that, to kind of alleviate any concerns?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you don't ever want to have bad news to, bring to your investors, but if you're dealing with real estate, it's inevitable that there's going to be something that happens. And it's one of those things that I feel it's best to just kind of get it out there. You do want to craft it in such a way that, one of my partners, when it's probably better that I do a lot of crafting of the messaging. He's just kind of like, he puts it there and then he just lets it, sit. And so I always have to like go back through and be like, okay, yes, we had this thing happen at whatever property. This, you just need to provide some additional details. Like, hey, this is what led to the issue. This is what we're doing about it. And, based on, the responses or anything, you may want to add some additional detail, but it's important to kind of like, craft it in such a way that you're talking about what led to the issue as well as how you're going to fix it. And I feel like we get a good response from that. Like, people obviously don't want something bad to be brought to their attention when it's been festering for some period of time. So in my opinion, it's really best as soon as something happens is to kind of get it out there, make sure that people understand that you're taking actions to correct whatever it may be.
Yeah. And how detailed do you actually get? I've been told, when I first started my business and was involved with asset management, I was told it's way too detailed. We're evicting this tenant. Here's how much they haven't paid. It was, how detailed do you get with your, I'm assuming you provide monthly updates with the properties and maybe quarterly financials. That's what we do.
So I would say it's changed depending on when we first started syndicating, we were syndicating smaller portfolios that we got here in an oceanfront neighborhood in Norfolk, Virginia. So you were dealing with, something on the par of like 28 units, 25 units. I felt like I got more detailed on each particular unit in that instance, as opposed to, a Houston property that we have, 121 units. If I'm talking about evictions, I'm saying, hey, we had, we're working through, 10 evictions or, what have you, as opposed to like, hey, we evicted, tenant, in 5B, we're turning that unit. So it kind of varies depending on the size of the property, in my opinion. And I've really kind of moved more towards away from the granular, information to kind of the macro level view of the property, and saying, hey, I give them, like during our renovations for this property, I break out like, hey, this is what we spent in terms of CapEx to this point. And then if they want to like dig into specifically, hey, this is what we spent in each particular unit, I'm happy to do that. But I think your general investors probably not overly concerned about some of those, in the weed details that, I deal with on a daily basis, that I used to pass to investors when we first started, and actually got feedback from investors like, hey, I don't really care about this much detail. And it was, so I want information out there, but at the same time, I don't want it to be a 10-page, investor update. So if investors, typically, if there's an investor that wants some more information, they will reach out, and then I'll be happy to go into those, in the weed details that I've kind of moved away from as I've produced investor relation updates.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. What you mentioned when you first started, similar to us, you probably over detailed, and then you got feedback like, "Well, this is way too much detail.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about." So just summarize it. I think feedback is key, and that just comes along with what you said in the beginning, being just transparent and honest. And it's like sometimes too much is too much, but that's great. And in terms of obviously you're in 3 different states right now. Asset management requires boots on the ground, as well at certain stages. How often do you visit your properties under management?
I'd say so. Right now we have properties in Annapolis, Maryland. That each of them have their own different aspects, right? So like our property in Annapolis, that's a conversion to a historic inn. So right now we're just dealing with the city, and so I go up there for important meetings and stuff like that. So yeah, I may go 2 times in a month, and then I may not go for another 3 months, depending on what's going on with that one. For our Houston property, so we have 3 properties in Houston now. So I'm probably down there. I want to say this year I probably averaged being down there every other month, I'd say, depending on what's going on. But we also have general contractors on site with project leads, so I'm able to get a good sense of what's going on at the property, with our site lead being on site. And so that may shift a little bit as we transition away from the majority of the renovations, and that maybe require me to go down, maybe on a monthly basis. But like I said, it really kind of depends on what's going on with the project at any given time. And for our stuff in Virginia here, I'm local to it, so it's pretty easy. I also have an assistant, asset management assistant here that is able to kind of go pick up some of that slack as well. But we do like to get out there on a routine basis if we don't have someone on site at all times.
Right. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And so you're in Virginia. Are you, and you're trying to sell some assets potentially in Virginia. Are you still looking to expand in the 3 states we mentioned before, kind of, circling where you live? And is that why you're focusing in those markets?
Yeah, I mean, we really like a couple different markets in Texas. We had a property under contract in San Antonio that, due to some criminal activity, fell out of contract. But there are several markets in Texas that we do like. One of my partners, he's based out of Florida now, so I mean there's several markets there local to him that we're excited about and would like to expand into. We're still looking in Virginia, but there are other areas that we would like to grow in besides Virginia.
Right. It makes it, like you said, a lot easier to attack the markets that you're currently in.
Mhm.
So 84. So how many units is that? 84 million.
It's about 680, I believe, somewhere right around there.
That's great. And you mentioned before, just a little bit for our audience, you have different general partners. So obviously, you're an active participant in putting together the deals and then managing them. Um, how many general partners do you work with in your deals? For us, we try to keep it pretty small, if any at all, outside. Just what's your experience been with decision making with other general partners and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, typically we're the lead sponsor on most of our deals. And in that, we like to kind of discuss amongst the Fair Winds team, like the path that we want to take a particular property. And once we kind of create that path in amongst ourselves, we go and bounce that against our general partners and say, hey, you guys, they obviously have experience and they're looking to be involved in the deal as well. And so it allows us to kind of create almost a finished product before we take it to them. And then they kind of help us fine tune that plan moving forward. I would say typically, we're still growing. So we typically will still take on a key principal when we bring on a deal. So I'd say outside of our key principal, we'll bring on 2 to 3, on a bigger deal, maybe 4 additional GP partners. They're involved in asset management, assisting me, investor relations, capital raising. But yeah, we would prefer to keep it smaller. But kind of depending on what that capital equity stack looks like, you may need to bring some assistance in there.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Corey, as we wind down the show, how can my audience find you, reach out to you, learn more about you?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. We have our website, which is fwcinvestments.com. You can learn a lot about us. We're definitely pretty active on social media. So those are some of probably the best ways you can get a hold of us. And then me personally, you can reach me at my email, which is corey@fwcinvestments.com as well.
Awesome. And we'll put a link to your email and your website in our show notes. And if you liked what you heard and or saw today, please give us a rating and review on iTunes. That would help our message get out to a greater audience. And Corey, really appreciate you coming on today and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent.